If I told you to name some of the best coaches in the NFL right now, who would you name? Bill Belichick, Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, etc. But what if I told you to name some of the worst coaches in the league? Who comes to mind first? Well, right now there's some pretty bad guys coaching in the league. So today I'm going to tell you my top 5 worst coaches in the NFL right now. To start us off is the number 5 worst coach in the league, Dallas Cowboys coach Jason Garrett. Now, this offseason, he didn't give his quarterback Dak any receiving weapons that he needed. Now, I know halfway through the season, they finally got a good wide receiver in Amari Cooper, but look at his past history. He was coming off 2 bad seasons in Oakland with a scary amount of drop passes. He wasn't putting up the production. Now, I know so far he's had at least 2 big games, but all of this could have been avoided, and they could have kept their first round pick if you go back to the last draft and they drafted a wide receiver. You had guys like Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. They were all available for the Cowboys to pick with their number 1 pick, but they didn't. They took Van Der Esch, who's played well, but still, your biggest need in the offseason was a wide receiver, and you didn't go that route. And then you force yourself halfway through the year to give up a number 1 pick for a guy who didn't deserve it at the time. Now, Jason Garrett, I know he's probably a puppet for Jerry Jones, but he's still the coach, and in my opinion, he's one of the worst coaches in the NFL right now. The number 4 worst coach in the NFL right now is Arizona Cardinals head coach Steve Wilks. Now, I know he's just a rookie head coach, but there's still been some questionable decisions this year that made me put him on this list. First, let's go back to the draft, where he moves up to draft Josh Rosen. Now, I like that move. They didn't give up a lot to go get him, so that was good. But here's the thing. Josh Rosen has no time to stand in the pocket and throw. That's what he needs. He's a guy who needs to stand in the pocket, look at his 1, his 2, his 3, and then make the decision to throw. He has no time at all to throw the ball. You move up to get a guy like that in the first round in the draft, he needs time to throw. They should have taken care of the O-line, and they didn't. Now let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball. They had one of the best safeties in the league in Tyrann Mathieu on their team. And what did they do when his contract was up? They let him walk, and now he's successful in Houston. And then what did they do with their money instead of signing Tyrann Mathieu? They went and got Sam Bradford, who has proven that he cannot be successful in the NFL. He has some good numbers here and there, but this guy can't stay healthy, and he clearly can't lead a team to a winning season. And now, look at that. He's not even on their active roster, and he's not even their starting quarterback. Steve Wilks and management in Arizona should have gotten an O-line, should have signed Tyrann Mathieu, but they didn't. And now look at them. They'll be drafting in the top 5 of the draft this year, and that's why I put Steve Wilks right now as the number 4 worst coach in the league. The number 3 worst coach in the NFL right now is New York Giants head coach Pat Sherman. Now, there's such a long list of everything this guy's been doing wrong this year. Let's go back a little bit. First, he trades away one of their best defensive players, Damon Harrison, for practically nothing. Now, Sherman got this job because of his success in Minnesota last year. But look at who was on that team in Minnesota. You know, you had 2 number 1 receivers, you had a backfield, you had a tight end. He doesn't really have that in New York. He's got one of the best receivers in OBJ, and he's got a stud rookie running back in Saquon Barkley. But he doesn't have the quarterback, and he doesn't really have a good tight end. So Shermer's being exposed because he's not able to do what he did in Minnesota this year with the Giants. Now, OBJ, like I said, is a top 10 wide receiver, but he's barely getting the ball. I get your O-line is bad, but you need to figure out a way to give OBJ the ball, either a screen or whatever. You just need to figure out to give him the ball, because when he gets the ball, he's electric and dangerous. Now, they do that a lot with Saquon Barkley, but I feel like they're kind of like overfeeding the horse with him. And then honestly, they should have done something with Eli. I know Saquon Barkley is doing well, but my mock drafts from this past draft, I have the Giants taking a quarterback, and they should have taken a quarterback, because now look at next year. They're either going to trade for one or they're going to draft one, and that all could have been avoided if they did it this year. But they have Saquon Barkley. So honestly, I think Sherman, you give him the benefit of the doubt since it's his first year and he's kind of got a lot of work to work with Eli Manning, you know, getting older, and you're obviously going to move on from him next year. But right now in 2018, Pat Sherman is the 3rd worst coach in the NFL. The number 2 worst coach in the NFL right now is Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott. Now, where do I begin with him? It's bad decision after bad decision. You go back to 2017. First, it was benching Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman. He should have been fired right there. He has a winning record with his quarterback Taylor, who's playing well, and then you move Peterman to be the quarterback. If I was management or ownership, I would have questioned his decisions right there and honestly would have put him on the hot seat. Now, I actually had him on the hot seat going into this year because of all the questionable decisions he made last year. Now, this year you move up in the draft for a quarterback who needs a ton of work, and you go ahead and you start him early. Now, I get you don't really have a lot of good starting quarterbacks to play before him, but if you kept Tyrod Taylor could have kept playing while Allen was developing. Instead, that didn't happen, and you put guys like Nathan Peterman in, Derek Anderson. You got rid of A.J. McCarron, who actually would have been a good starter while Allen was developing, but you didn't. You got rid of all those guys, and now they just released Nathan Peterman, which they should have done before he even got to play last year. I just feel like Sean McDermott doesn't know what it takes to win, and I think he's eventually going to get fired from Buffalo after this year, especially with how poor the record is. And that's why I think Sean McDermott is the number 2 worst coach in the NFL right now. Now, the number 1 worst coach in the NFL right now is obviously a no-brainer. It's Jon Gruden with the Oakland Raiders. What is wrong with this man? Not only the worst coach in the league right now, but possibly one of the worst coaches ever after the choices he's made. I think he's ruined his reputation from before winning a Super Bowl with Tampa, and all of the things that people have said about him, he's an offensive guru. This guy has totally ruined his reputation in just 1 year, and the year isn't even over. Obviously, you go back to Khalil Mack. Yeah, you got 2 first-round picks out of him, but you traded away not only your best defensive player, but probably the best 2-position player in the whole NFL. This guy has been an all-pro linebacker and an all-pro defensive end. And I know I said earlier in the video, Amari Cooper wasn't playing well, but he was your number 1 receiver, and then you trade him away. There's rumors that he's going to trade Derek Carr, and it wouldn't surprise me with all the crazy decisions he did. I mean, God, if you trade away Khalil Mack, if you're an Oakland Raider, I don't feel safe being on that team. They traded away Mack. They're going to trade you away. Just watch out. This is some of the worst coaching I've ever seen. Not only with the moves he's making by trading away Mack, trading away Cooper, but they're actually in the game. The play calling is so bad. There's no chemistry between Gruden and Carr, which I think Carr is going to end up getting traded next year. I don't know what Jon Gruden thinks. I don't think the Raiders were a rebuild situation when he took over. If I was him, you re-sign Khalil Mack, you keep Cooper and Carr together, you get that 2015 magic going from the Raiders. This was a team that 2 years ago was on their way to the Super Bowl before Derek Carr got hurt. But now Khalil Mack is gone, Amari Cooper's gone, Derek Carr could be traded, and Jon Gruden is rebuilding this team for what? They were ready to go 2 years ago. They shouldn't have even fired Jack Del Rio. He should still be their coach. But instead, they have Jon Gruden for 10 years, and it's going to be 10 years of losing and 10 years of horrible decisions. And that's why, no doubt, no brainer, Jon Gruden is the worst coach in the NFL right now. I'm Will the Thrill, and those are my top 5 worst coaches in the NFL right now. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at WTT Football Page, and we'll see you next time.